when people come to our church, our job and our goal is to like help bring them into the family.
Yeah.
And not ever have someone feel like, oh man, they're a tight-knit group that I can't break into.
Right.
But it's like, how do we expand our family? Welcome to our fourth podcast. So we're excited today. We're going to be talking about what it's like to be pastors. And so first of all, this is our fourth podcast, which is exciting. We're 4 in already.
Yeah, we're doing it.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
So yeah, we're excited. And it was on our heart today just to talk about what it's like being pastors and specifically co-leading a church together and having a shared calling. And so let's just start right there. I think it's interesting that neither one of us really had an aspiration to be a pastor.
Never. Not one even time until God called us, like not even a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. And so neither one of us, when we met, talked about ministry or we weren't even pursuing God. But it's God's funny joke that he knew our calling was to be pastors and he brought us together. Yeah. And you were a school teacher.
Yeah. Well, when we first met, I just thought you were cute. We were in high school. And so, no aspirations whatsoever. And really even music for us was kind of like a new thing. We've been worship leaders for many years as well. I just thought you were cute. So it's just funny, like how God can be leading things and doing things behind the scenes. And, here we are. And it's like, oh man, how does he do that? It's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite amazing. I mean, you went to school to be a teacher, and you were teaching high school choir. Yep. And I was kind of pursuing music, like my rock band, becoming a music producer and recording engineer and all that stuff. And so we had trajectories of like, I was going to be music producer and you were a teacher.
I was going to be a teacher forever. Yeah. That was my plan. I'm a set it and forget it kind of person. And so that was the plan.
Yeah. And that's really what we were doing in mid-20s. I was pursuing being a music producer, recording engineer, and you were pursuing teaching. And we had this interesting left turn in life that really turned us towards ministry. Yeah. And really, it was like we weren't even looking for it. It was just like we had our daughter. And we're like, okay, we both had some background in Christianity. I was raised Southern Baptist as a younger kid. And then you were raised like mostly AG, right? Like kind of Baptist, but Assembly of God too. A little bit of charismatic in there.
Right. So we both had that background, but we weren't really serving God at the time that we met. So then by the time, we're married and now we have a baby, then it was like, okay, do we really believe what we say we believe? Now we have a kid that we're raising, and that was kind of our prompt of like, we need to find a church. And so that began our journey of like kind of church hopping and trying to figure out where we belonged, and God really showed us a church. And even that, it didn't feel like, a sign from heaven, this is the church. I mean, we church hopped a little bit, and it was very clear a couple churches that weren't it. And then someone invited us to a church that was an hour away, and we had a newborn at the time, and we went, and we're like, okay, that feels good. And I remember we were on the way home, the hour ride home with screaming baby in the back, just like, okay, is this going to be our church? And like, what do you think? I'm like, yeah, I think so. What do you think? Yeah, I think so. It felt like such a light decision at the time because like we didn't know much. Right. And we actually shook hands on it. Right. We're like, yep, this is our church. And again, the way that I tend to think is like, set it and forget it. This is going to be our church forever. Like it didn't even cross my mind that you would ever leave a church or, anything like that. And so
it's interesting. I remember hearing a message, I think it was by Danny Silk calling like follow your favor. And I remember we just had a lot of favor in church like right away. And even though we were kind of baby Christians.
Brand new. Like I remember going into worship services And first of all, I had never seen anything like it, like electric guitar and drums and stuff. I was like, is this allowed? Like, where's the pipe organ, you know? And then the worship pastor would be like, okay, everybody press in, lift your hands, you know? And I wanted to do what they're doing. I didn't understand why. So I'd be like, okay, lift my hands, press in. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. So I'm like pressing my hands. I mean, like, it was all just brand new. And I remember looking at the worship leader, because I've always been, you know, in music and playing piano and singing and stuff. And I'm like, I would never do that. That was literally my thought. I would never do that. I don't know enough. Like, this guy's reciting scripture. I hadn't even read my Bible at that point. Yeah. And so I was just like, okay, you know, I'll join the choir because I should serve, because they were talking about you should serve, you know. And I'm like, well, I sing, so I'll join the choir. And that was kind of like the beginning, I guess, but like really unintentional.
Right. But you really, looking back, you really see God's hand in it, how he kind of pulled us into different, you know, places in the church, maybe not necessarily leadership to begin with, but how we felt like drawn more and more to serve at our church. Yeah. And God started to get a hold of our heart. Yeah. And we started to see our lives change. And that's really, and I share this testimony at church, but I really don't think my life changed much at all until we turned our life to the Lord at like 26, 27 years old. For me, you were like 25. And then we started to see our life change and started to see God healing us of wounds and issues. And we felt the call to like, to minister at our church or serve at our church, to be more of involved in church. And you can just kind of see how over the years that turned into us pastoring. You know, we started out as more like just worship leaders. Yeah. But so no aspirations though, just to start with that for pastoring. But I do remember, however,
not even no aspirations, like I would never, could never, don't want to. Yeah. It's probably a better description.
Right. And I was even 10 years into serving at church, I remember having the thought, like, I could never speak in front of all these people. Yeah. Like, and feeling like, nauseous at the thought of speaking in front of all those people. And that's a whole nother story.
It's kind of a running joke with Christians too. It's like, never say never with God, because the thing that you never, want to do, you'll be never in like you never had.
Right. The thing you're most afraid of could be your calling.
It's your calling. Yeah. Oftentimes.
And that was probably the thing I was most afraid of, was speaking in front of all the people in front of our church. Yep. And turns out that's God's plan. So, but there was something kind of funny I remembered this morning as we were getting ready for this is, we had no aspirations to go into ministry, but however, I do remember, and my grandma would share these stories with me. I do remember when I was a little guy, like probably like 5 or 6 years old, my grandma had an old folks home where she would take care of older people. And there was these two, I do remember some of this, and some of this is from my grandma sharing this story with me. But there was these two older ladies in her home that were sisters, and one was mean and one was nice. And I would get up, my grandma had this little pedestal, and I would get up as a 5-year-old and stand on this pedestal with the Bible and preach to these two old ladies. And I don't know what I was saying, but and I remember one would clap for me, and she was and the other one would like criticize me. She had like, so it's kind of like today, that's kind of what we experience. Right. Some people are excited and some people are not, but so it's kind of funny that somewhere in there, deep in there, like maybe even as a 5-year-old, I kind of knew my calling.
Yes, yeah.
But by the time you and I got together, that was not in our hearts at all. So it's interesting to see how God put us together, and to just encourage couples out there, like God may have more for you as a couple, and more like connected callings together than you realize, and just pursue God in that, and He'll show you what it is.
Yeah. Well, and I'd like to get to the story too of God really confirming those callings, but I think that's like in a minute. But for me, like I always felt like I was going to be found out. Like I kind of had like that imposter syndrome or whatever, because like I joined the choir, and then they would ask me to lead worship for something. I think my first worship leading experience was for a Celebrate Recovery group of like 6 people, and I brought my keyboard and I was literally shaking. I was so nervous to lead worship for 6 people, and it felt so like it felt so high stakes. You know what I mean? It's like you're, leading people into God's presence, and you don't want to say something wrong, so it's
Right.
like that was kind of my thing. But so then I got asked to lead worship for like a women's event and stuff like that. And the next thing you know, I got asked to lead worship at another church for a women's conference that they were having there. And again, I felt like I stumbled into it. I'm like, they don't even know that I'm new. I felt so disqualified.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to lead worship there, and the lady got up and prophesied over me. And that was, I didn't know at the time, but that was a very pivotal prophetic word for me. I didn't really even understand prophecy at the time, to be honest with you. But she called me out of the crowd and had me stand up, and she prophesied over me. She's like, God has had you in one field for a while. Like you've put a lot of work into that. And of course, I knew in the back of my head, she's talking about teaching. I got my degree in
5.5
music
years
education.
of college.
5.5 years. I was a super senior.
5.5 years of us both working hard
Yes.
to put you through college.
Yes, and the student debt, and
Yeah.
all that kind of thing. And so it's like I was committed. This is I'm a set it and forget it person. She's like, okay, but God is saying you've gotten everything that you need to get out of that, so don't feel like it's wasted time. But He is shifting you. There's a fork in the road, and He's calling you to come into full-time ministry. And that was something I hadn't even considered at that point.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of like a mind shift. And then she also prophesied over me that you're going to go through a boiling season, and the boiling is like a purification. It's like all the impurities rise to the top. She didn't mince words. It's like there's going to be boiling. It's going to be hard. But when that process is done, your ministry is going to be healing, 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 and glory, glory, glory. And I had no idea what that meant. Like healing, I didn't know what that. I didn't have a grid for healing like we have now. And I was 26 years old, so that was before I ever needed healing. That was before my healing testimony, by 10 years or whatever, almost 10 years.
Yeah.
And then glory, glory, glory made no sense to me either. But that was a very pivotal word that I've come back to quite a few times. Which is really, really awesome. But that was the shift for me of like, oh, I am called to ministry. And it wasn't long after that I was given more opportunities to then, be like the main worship leader, and then to start essentially pastoring a group of musicians and band people and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I remember just, it's really fun memories I remember seeing God draw you out. And you getting called out of, like, even getting called out of choir, like, hey, you need to come up here, and like you need to be more in the front of
and
everybody.
It always felt like an accident, or like I'm gonna get found out.
Yeah,
like
like,
someone's
what are you doing?
got this messed up. They're gonna fire me tomorrow. Like every Sunday after worship, I'd be like, I'm getting like I think our running joke at the time was like they put a Bible with like your name engraved in gold, and that's your like you're getting retired or whatever. Like we're done with you. I'm like, I'm getting my Bible on Monday. It's like just always that unworthiness thing. But that was a marker for me at that time. Like things kept accidentally, happening.
Right.
Or like our pastor at the time asked me to lead an adult Sunday school, and I immediately hard pass, just like, nope, that's not me. Like I'll sing, but I'm not going to teach people, And I literally turned him down. And then it wasn't long after that we went through the ministry gifts test, and I found out, it's not an accident that I ended up as a teacher. I do have a teaching gift.
Yeah.
And that's when I went back to my pastor, and I was like, okay, I think I am supposed to do this.
Yeah.
But like God's so kind, right? It's like
Right.
step by step by step, just little steps of faith and jumping in each time.
Yeah. And I think one of the things I try to remember, and I encourage our congregation in a lot, is if you pursue God in your life, if you put God in front of you and you just say, okay, this is the direction I'm going, He does so much in that, like where He will just peel you like an onion and bring you into your calling. And that's really what we saw. So we have a few questions that we want to get to today. So we kind of ahead of time just wrote down some questions that hopefully are interesting for people to hear about our life and about what it's like to pastor. So we talked about shared calling. What are your complementary strengths as people and pastors?
Yeah. I think for us as pastors now, like fast forwarding, like we're pastoring, it's kind of unique because we co-pastor. And you don't always see that, you see, and there's nothing wrong with different ways people do stuff, but you typically see like a pastor and a pastor's wife, or occasionally you'll see a pastor and a pastor's husband, but we are both leading together, that we both preach, we both lead the team and have different strengths in that way. But I think, honestly, some of the things that were difficult in our marriage are actually like things that are very beneficial in ministry and ultimately in our marriage as well, is that we're so different.
Right.
Like, we're very different people.
Well, and this is like, I think it's most all married couples. It's like you're very, very different.
Yeah.
And that's, this could be we could take a whole, left turn to talk about marriage, but it's like learning how to complement each other with your differences, and honor each other's differences, and not judge each other for the differences.
Right.
And that's what we've definitely had to do in marriage, and what we've had to do in as church leaders as well.
Yeah.
But what specifically would you say is like some leaders or some qualities that like you're strong in that maybe like complement me and vice versa?
Well, I think we have strengths in the similar areas. In some ways, it's just our preparation is different. Does that make sense? So it's like, because we both love to speak and minister and stuff. You have a gift when you're speaking of like, I think, grabbing people's hearts. Like, you have that mercy and compassion gift, and you have a way of telling stories that like draw people in, and it hits their emotions in that way. And for me as a teacher, preacher, I'm probably more like precept type teaching. I'm going to take you there in a specific way to help you come to a certain conclusion. Does that make sense? So it's like maybe more teacher type, not that you don't teach or whatever, but it's going to be more on a logical black and white, for a little bit different lens.
I think we both teach and preach, but I would say you lean more towards teacher and I lean more towards pastor.
Yeah.
And I remember Jason, our friend Jason, if you're listening, shout out.
Love you.
Saying, he was just kind of complimenting us, saying, he's like, I love both of your preaching styles, but he mentioned to you, he's like, you minister to my mind, and he's like, and you, speaking about me, minister to my heart.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's like, and I love both.
Yeah. And so it's good because it brings, we're able to speak to a lot of different people or even hit them in a different way, even talking about the same topic, which is cool. But also it's fun, like, because there's times that there's moments that we have the opportunity to team preach. And people would think like, oh, that means that, you get half the workload. And I'm like, no, it like doubles the workload because your process is so different than mine too. So it's like, then I have to have my process. You have to have yours. And then we come together and kind of exchange. Yeah. I think we're going to get better at it. It doesn't necessarily have to be.
I think we've done a good job when we've had to do it. It's just like, it's not a break for us to team teach because we both put in just as much preparation as if we teach by ourselves.
We just think differently in how we put a message together.
And it's easier to just like, hey, I know how I'm going to present this. And it's much harder to be like, how do we present this together?
Yes, and highlighting each other's strengths and stuff. Right. But it's still fun. It's just, it's time consuming. Yeah. But
for sure.
But yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, next question. What's the decision making balance?
Yeah.
And so you mind if I start on that?
Oh, yeah, no, go for it.
So I think one thing is that we do co-pastor, and that it's not like one of us is the boss and the other one is like the less of a boss. It's like we're both co-pastoring, so we have equal leadership of our church, and once again that is more challenging than if one person was just calling all the shots. It reminds me of like that Office episode where I think it was like they had two bosses for a while. It was like Jim and
Michael.
And I remember one of the employees' comment was like, "Oh yeah, this is going to work great. Like, what ship doesn't have two captains, and what country doesn't have two presidents?" It's like suggesting that this is a horrible idea.
Right. Yeah.
And but there is like a strength in it for us. It is more challenging for sure, but it has slowed me down a lot and helped me process decisions more because we talk to each other about every major decision that's going to be made in the church. And I am forced to hear another perspective and to and so many times that's been such a huge strength and stopped us from maybe doing something that wasn't the best decision, and you know, vice versa.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny because you think of The Office. My head goes to, who is it in the Avengers movie? It's like Thor and Star-Lord or whatever his name is, like where they're like, oh, we all know who's in charge here. And they're both like, I am. Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, you are. No, but we have a good like give and take in that way. And I think that's also where our different strengths and weaknesses come into play. Like you're very visionary, you know, we need to do this and it's going to look like this and, you know, this many people and da-da-da-da-da. And then my brain goes to the structure because I'm very administrative. So I'm like, okay, but we need to get these processes in place and we need this type of structure and we need these types of organizational things and we need to make sure we, you know, get the insurance and that we get the legalities in place and stuff. And so in that way, it's a strength. Right. You know, but we just think very differently in that way. And I think that's part of what makes our decisions maybe more powerful is that we're weighing those things and together and not, you know, we're forging ahead and then people have to like run to catch up with you. Yeah. And I think in general, I think that's our philosophy with leadership anyway, that it's not just with you and me, like even with our board, we make decisions unanimously. And so that we're not, you know, not taking into account other people's perspectives, you know, because like we really lean on those strengths of other people's thoughts, or even, you know, our heart for fivefold ministry. Fivefold ministry is where there's apostles, prophets, teachers, evangelists, and pastors. And if you can have those anointings all running together and being, you know, mutually submitted to one another, you get this amazing maturity for the body of Christ because you've got the priority of heaven happening, you've got people's families growing, and the people are doing good, and they're being discipled, and they're learning to evangelize, and it's, you know, signs and wonders and miracles in the priority of heaven. It's amazing. It's beautiful what the Bible spells out, but it requires us to all come in humility and submit to one another in those ways.
It requires more skills that you have to become good at, like communication skills, learning to honor one another, learning to yield to someone else's gifting, and so it is a strength, but it has slowed us down, I think, in a good way. Yeah. To where it's like, okay, hey, we got to go back a couple steps and let's work on communication or let's work on honor. Yeah. And I know that's been some values that we've really tried to impart to our congregation. Yeah. Of like, and it's probably why one of the compliments that we get so often is this feels like family. Yeah. This feels like honoring, like everybody here is coming together to honor one another and to bring each other into the family. And that's what we teach our leadership team. Right. Like, hey, when people come to our church, our job and our goal is to like help bring them into the family. Yeah. And not ever have someone feel like, oh man, they're a tight-knit group that I can't break into. Right. But it's like, how do we expand our family? How do we bring people? But I think it goes back to us having to learn to not just charge ahead, you know, with one vision, but having to yield to each other's, you know, thoughts, perspective, opinion, vision, and come together with one vision. And so I do think it's a strength, although it's required more of us, like to dig deeper on some things. Sure, yeah. Well, and to come to humility and to grow in communication and to grow in listening. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, because that is a skill in itself. Like listening to someone else without being defensive about what they're saying. Because with fivefold ministry, you want every lens saying, hey, we've got to evangelize, or hey, we've got to disciple people, or hey, we've got to honor the priority of heaven right now, you know, with what we're seeing prophetically. Yeah. And so that requires us all to listen and factor those things in and not just have one person just making all the decisions or whatever. But I think that's also something that I love is that, like, we're not competing.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like there's not like a winner or a loser. It's not like, well, who's the most in charge or whatever. Because like I hate that in ministry. It's like it's so yucky to me. Like when people are competing and trying to climb a ladder, it's like that is so not what it's about. Like, you know, when you want to be a leader, you have to be the best servant. Like
Right.
the highest level, if there is such a thing, if the apostles are the lowest servants.
Yeah.
And that is how, you know, we want to do ministry. It's like we're
Yeah.
not trying to. It's not this corporate-y, schmoozy thing.
Yeah.
And I think that that's also where decisions and stuff can be powerful with multiple giftings and stuff like that. Because I think another one of your gifts is that you tend to see everybody as like being good, and we got to honor their hearts, and like everybody's got, you know, redemption and stuff like that, which obviously I do believe. But then I have like a lot of the discernment of like, but I can also see below, you know, what is happening, you know, and sometimes people don't have the greatest of intentions. That doesn't mean that there's not an opportunity for them to grow or whatever, but I think that's also where we complement one another.
Yeah.
Where it's like I need to
for
come
sure.
your way sometimes, but you also need to come my way sometimes.
Yeah.
In those things, and it really strengthens what
Yeah.
we're doing. I think, yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody yesterday about somehow Tony Stark came up, the Avengers, and I was talking about it's extremely rare in real life, to see someone who's an extreme visionary like that character, but also has the technical know-how, like he's building his own costumes, or what do they call them, like armor for Iron Man and stuff. And that's almost never the case in real life. In real life, you see more like a Steve Jobs, who's a visionary, and the other guy, Wozniak, who's like, he's the how-to, like, I'm going to put this vision into action.
Yeah.
And I do see that with us a lot, where I can be more the visionary, but you're more like, yeah, but how do we do that? And we have
Right.
to kind of slow the vision a second
Yeah.
to like figure out how do we put this together and actually make it happen in a way that's going to be healthy for everybody, and bring the family with us and not jump ahead of the family.
Yes.
And honor everybody. And so I do see it as a great strength.
Yeah, and we need each other in that way, because I can err too much on the side of caution. And it's like, well, me by myself, I might not go anywhere or do anything. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, here's the risks, and here's, you know, the things that we need to put in place. Now let's make a good decision.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we hit that one pretty good. How do you navigate family in ministry? And certainly on all these questions, we're not trying to pretend like we've got all this stuff figured out. Like we're still figuring that out even. And we have 5 kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, where should we start with that? How do we navigate family and ministry?
I mean, my best answer is Holy Spirit, because there's no such thing as balance. You're never going to be like, oh, we've hit balance, we're good. You know what I mean?
No.
Because like, you know, we have 5 kids, like they're all growing. Like there's different seasons. Okay, we're potty training. Okay, now
Right.
we've got teenagers. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, because seasons are always changing, it's like, okay, now it's school season, or
Right.
now it's summertime. You always have
Are
to be
adjusting.
navigating with
Yeah.
Holy Spirit.
And right now we have an adult child who's married, we have 2
Yes.
teenagers, and we have 2 little boys that are in like elementary school. And so it's very different meeting them where they're at. I would say I totally agree with everything you said, but I think what has helped me is, and I think some pastors get this wrong, and Lord help us to get this right.
Right.
But I think it's realizing the priorities of heaven, like what God's asking us to do. And number one, we know that our first and most important thing is our relationship with Christ.
Right.
And number 2, our next most important thing, way above ministry, is our marriage. Like, absolutely, that has to be right there as the number one important thing aside from our relationship with Christ. Then after that is our relationship with our children, and really ministering to them. They're our first ministry.
Yeah.
And I think that's where pastors can get this wrong, is like the church can become more important, you know, not that they're intending to or have bad hearts,
Right.
but it can get more attention and love than their spouse and their kids,
Right.
Or one of those. And it really, so we've seen, we know a lot of PKs, And
Yeah.
a lot of PKs have ran away from church because of that. They felt like,
Right.
hey, I was always second place to the church.
Yeah.
And I didn't get my needs met, but mom and dad or dad was quick to meet church needs ahead of mine.
Right.
And so we try really hard to not let that happen.
Yeah.
And to really, I think you have to get over appearances stuff, because you
Yeah.
also don't want your kids to be pressured like, hey, you have to look a certain way
Right.
to make me look good, you know,
Yeah.
because that can really hurt their heart too.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've kind of given our kids a lot of slack there, to where
Yeah.
we're not trying to you know, and even if people like, if they look messy,
Yeah.
it's like, well, we come back to like, well, our biggest priority is to minister to their heart, not to make them look good,
Right.
or not to protect our reputation.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think having your priorities straight, and, you know, grounding yourself in your mission. And I think anytime things get chaotic, it's good to know, like, what's my vision? What's my mission?
Yeah.
And to ground yourself back into that. Like, okay, my mission in life is to love Jesus, love my wife, love my kids, and then lead my church.
Yeah.
And so when things get hard, it's going back to that mission and being like, am I doing this? You know, and we're never doing it perfectly. And it's always a process, like you said, with Holy Spirit, of like, how do I get better at this? And what am I missing in this right now?
Yeah. Well, I think that's part of like the trick in that question, is that like they really shouldn't be separated, as far as like, you know, if I want the church to grow or I want to focus on my family, it's like you're not going to grow a healthy church if your family's suffering. Not on a deep level. And really, like, that's kind of our philosophy in ministry, and kind of what we've learned is like, we have to be constantly growing. We have to be going after the breakthroughs in our own life, because all we have to give to somebody else is what we've gone after.
Right.
So, for example, like if we want our church to grow in finances, then we know, okay, we've got to go after finances. We've got to get to that next level. We've got to seek God and have Him bring even more transformation into our hearts, so that we have something to break off and give to the congregation. It's like we don't just tell people what to do. It's like we have to go after that breakthrough ourselves. So in that same way, it's like it doesn't make sense to say like, oh, you know, we're really just going to pursue having a healthy church, and then our kids are suffering, because it's like, what do we have to offer to people to grow their families if we're not doing that ourselves? And again, we're not doing it perfectly all the time. You know, it's something that I'm constantly trying to navigate, but it's like our first
like
ministry.
you said, changes with each season.
Right,
Each
right.
season you have to kind of figure it all out over again.
Yeah,
So like,
yeah.
okay, summer's over, school's starting now. Everybody's schedule is different.
Or at this particular age, what are they needing at this age? And you know,
and that's huge as well. And what good does it do for us to build this huge church if our marriage falls apart?
Right.
Or if our kids are struggling?
Right.
It's like at the end of the day, I think the biggest success we can have as pastors is to have a strong marriage and to have a family who's very healthy.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and it's something, again, it's like we haven't figured it out.
Yeah. Lord help us.
But I think we kind of know, we have a base of like, okay, this is where we need to be. And that's something that I've seen us both go after.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's the thing for us, is like our kids didn't choose to be in ministry. And like you're saying, like the temptation of like how they appear to people, or decisions that they make, because that's kind of like the PK, you know, what do you call that? The thing with PKs is that like they're under scrutiny.
Yeah.
You know, it's like people are testing to see, you know, how do your kids look, you know, that kind of thing. But it's like they did not choose ministry. You know, it's like whatever things that we're going after, it's like we want them to grow because we want them to grow, but not to make us look good. So, I mean, there's been times like we let, you know, our little boy show up to children's church in his pajamas. You know, it's like, I can't remember what had happened, or like he'd had a late night and he was just like having a tantrum, and he just really wanted to wear his pajama shirt. And I'm like, you know what?
Pick your battles.
Pick your battles. And so I'm like, okay, he's not dressed to the nines and representing me as pastor mom, but I'm like, you know, I love my little boy, and, you know, we're just navigating something, you know. Or there was a time that he had his Blippi costume. Like, he really loved Blippi for a minute. I'm really glad that season's over for many reasons. but he had his blippy glasses and his hat, you know, and he just really wanted to wear it to church. And, you know, we're just like, okay, you know, you can wear it to church. And of course, all the other little kids that love Blippi are like, oh, Blippi's here, you know. So he had fun for a minute. Yeah, yeah.
We took him to the gym a few times too, and like
he's like a celebrity.
So the childcare area at the gym, and all the kids would come around him like, oh, Blippi.
Just like gasps, oh, Blippi's here. And
so he was Blippi for a solid year.
He was eating that up, yeah.
Yeah, where he wanted to wear literally every day.
Every day.
Wanted to wear. So we had to buy multiple outfits.
Because they were wearing out. But, and orange glasses all day. Like, I literally have memories of him a certain season, like, with him wearing glasses, and it's because of the Blippi glasses. Yeah. But all that to say, you know, it's like, we started to feel like, okay, this is an identity thing. Like, you are not actually Blippi. So, no, you're not going to go to church as Blippi. Yeah. But it was something that we were walking him out of, and not for the sake of, like, this looks bad to people, you know what I mean? It's like, I try not to have that be a motivator in my heart.
And definitely that's a temptation sometimes to like, but then you have to go back to that, wait a minute, my first ministry is my family.
Right.
And making them feel like they're more important to me than the church. And that's something we have said to our kids, but hopefully we're also living that to where they feel that. Because they'll, even if you're saying it and you're still in your action, you're doing something else, they won't feel that you're actually mean that. And so so we do, that's something that we want to keep in balance and let them know they're our first ministry and their first priority. And so, you know, pastors, take vacations, put your family first.
Yeah, make memories, because it goes by quick.
Yeah.
But I do think on the flip side of that, like something that really helped my heart, really kind of more recently, I was chatting with a friend of mine that's also a pastor, like we've kind of commiserated at times because it can be hard on the kids, you know, when there's a hardship in the church, or, you know, some people leave upset or whatever, and then their friends leave, and, you know, it's like they're not in the ministry by choice, but there's an element, you know, where they're affected by things. And so we were kind of talking about that, and she was sharing, you know, like someone really helped me with that, with this breakthrough moment of like, is it a surprise to God that your kids are pastor's kids? Because if he called you to pastor, did he not have your kids covered in that?
That's good.
And so kind of flip the script on it. It's like, actually, our kids have gotten to have meals with some of our amazing guest speakers. Yeah. Like, our kids have gotten to see some of the inside of things, or see the testimonies, and be like right there, seeing the things happen. And so that was kind of the encouragement, is like, but God's got them in that way, and not to push them off to the side because God's got them. That would be wrong, right? Yeah. But, you know, with some of the hardships that come along with it, of course, God is going to be bringing blessing and, you know, the things that they need as well.
Yeah. So, awesome. Well, next question. What is the most rewarding moment or rewarding moments as a pastor?
Oh, man. They happen all the time. Like, I love it. I love seeing when people get saved. I love seeing people get baptized. I love people getting breakthrough, like transformation. One of the big ones on our heart, because we already had the podcast about grace and grace and mercy and things like that, and God's love, and like when people finally get it, that God loves them, and they're like, oh my gosh, because that in itself is transformational, and it's God doing it, right? But introducing people to who he really is, and having them embrace that and watch how their life changes and their fruit changes, and that's amazing. And then, of course, I love seeing people get activated in their callings. That's like a big one for me. It's like, you know, seeing not just that we're praying for healing and seeing someone get healed, but someone else that didn't think that was possible, and now they're praying for people and they're getting healed. Like that, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I would completely agree that my favorite moments have been seeing those breakthroughs. Yeah. Those huge breakthroughs with people, people getting saved, baptized, just really transformed. And like hearing stories of like, hey, our marriage is transformed. Yeah. Or my life is transformed, or I'm not the same because of this.
Or I finally have family.
Yeah.
You know, I have this amazing community. I didn't think this was possible.
Right.
Or like,
I've never seen this before.
Yes.
Like, we've heard that a lot.
Or I didn't think it was possible to be able to hear God's voice. I didn't think
Yeah.
it was possible to have this kind of relationship with God. You know, like those, I mean, it's all the time. Honestly, I feel like we're spoiled to it in some ways.
Yeah.
And it's like we try to write them down and remember because testimonies are happening all the time.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I'd say another thing, and I'll see if I can articulate this, but I think the way I grew up in a broken home, and you kind of grow up with like this feeling that everybody's against you, and you're like you know, just at war with the world.
Yeah.
And obviously it's not true. It's a perspective of just, you know, coming from brokenness. So some of the most fun times for me are like, it's almost like sometimes when I'm speaking or preaching or teaching people, it's almost like I expect resistance. It's like I expect people not to be with me, and expect to have to convince them to come with me. And some of the most rewarding moments are when you just feel that everybody is with you.
Yeah.
And they're with you, and they're like willing to go, you know, where you want to take them, and where the Holy Spirit is leading all of us.
Yeah.
And those are really fun and healing moments, you know, coming from that, of just like, oh wow, like this feels really awesome to see. People are with you, they're behind you, like we're all growing towards this calling and you know, thing that God's taking us towards. And so just feeling that, there's been moments where I'm like, oh wow, everybody's with it, like there are more for us than against us. And even we've had seasons where there have been conflict and people that were against us, but even in those moments, you kind of see who's with you.
Yeah.
And there's always more for you than against you. And just feeling like, oh wow, there's people that really are here. They're all in with this vision, and they're like connected because of because they've been ministered to, because they've felt loved and cared for. And they've gotten breakthrough, and now they're like with you for life, kind of thing.
Yeah. And because they're so connected to God now in a way that they didn't feel possible, that they're taking these steps of bravery. I love seeing that too. Like taking steps into things that they never thought that they would ever do. Like write a book or start a ministry or, you know, whatever the thing is at whatever level. Like I'm going to give a personal prophecy. You know, it's like, because there's so many different things in different levels. And, you know, to watch someone feel that confidence in God, that God is for them and that he loves them and that he wants to use them. And then they take those steps to step into that. I love seeing that too.
And I think that's something we could encourage other pastors in, we've never felt this thing where we have to be the only people speaking in the pulpit, or that we have to be the only ones prophesying, or that we have to be the only ones praying for healing. But we've really, probably to a fault, tried to empower people to do that. To like, our job is to equip people for the purpose of ministry, to help them minister. And I think there's pressure for some pastors to, out of the thought of, we have to keep everything very excellent, that they feel like they have to do it all, instead of like, hey, this is probably going to be messy sometimes, but we actually need to let other people lead and prophesy and preach and grow in that, obviously with boundaries and with, you know, not letting just anybody get up and preach, but seeing more so seeing the calling and seeing the gold in other people, and being like, okay, it's my job to draw that out. And it's my job to help them step into prophesying and praying for the sick, and it's my job to a certain extent to do that for everybody, to help them learn how to pray for the sick. And I
like it. That's all I have to say about that. I don't know. There's just so many testimonies all the time, and I think that's some of it too. That like staying in that childlike wonder place. That testimonies don't get old to us. You know what I mean? That we're not like, that it's like, you know, another shoulder got healed. It's just like, that is a miracle. You know what I mean? Or like another person got connected to the heart of God, and, you know, they've, you know, overcome some of the, you know, abuse or trauma that they experienced, and now they can finally receive love from God. It's like that stuff happens all the time, but it's like to make sure that we're like appreciating those moments, you know, because like that's life-changing. It's really awesome. Yeah,
and I think, you know, what occurred to me as we're talking about this is the greatest most rewarding moments are to come. Like, 'cause it's like, you spend the first decade kind of setting the table for, what God is going to do in the future. And so, the best moments are yet to come.
Yeah.
How do you deal with grief and loss in the congregation? That's a good one. I feel like I've a lot that I could say about that.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely been moments that, walking with someone when they lost a child, or, they're looking at divorce, and it's not something that they can stop from happening, or just different grief moments of like something's going on in their family, and so it's like, I feel like it's a huge honor to walk with people in their most amazing moments, of like, marrying somebody and being there, for those moments, or, dedicating their babies or baptizing them. Like, it's an honor, but then part of that honor is also doing funerals for their family members, or, in
their hardest moments.
Yes. And just sitting with them. And there's really not much that you can do or say, but just sit with them and, listen, or just pray, and,
I think that's where I've often felt like, man, I have to have something to say, or like I have to have an encouragement. And really, the Bible doesn't tell us to do that. It says, mourn with those who mourn.
Yeah.
And so it really does take the pressure off of, like, I don't have to have the right words in this moment.
Yeah.
I need to mourn with those who mourn.
Yeah.
And I remember we had a man and a husband and wife that lost their daughter a few years ago. And I remember just going to their home after this had happened, and like, the worst scenario, like a teenage daughter losing her life. And I remember just thinking, like, my job is just to mourn with those who mourn.
Yeah.
And there was a grace for it to where, I just sat next to him and just put my hand on his arm, and I just began to weep.
Yeah.
And it was like God was giving me a grace to just mourn with those who mourn, and just cried with them.
Right.
Just for like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was like no words, really.
Yeah.
And I remember there was even like you could feel there were a lot of people there, and you could feel almost people were trying to like cheer them up.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not really our job. It's our job to just mourn with those who mourn.
Yeah.
And, that felt like the best thing I could do for him, rather than have an encouragement or have the right words. It's just like, I think it meant more to him that I was just there to like mourn with him.
Yeah. Well, and that, I mean, like the Bible says, it's like rejoice with those who are rejoicing and mourn with those who mourn.
And sometimes you have to do both at the same time.
On the same day.
Right.
With
it's one family you're rejoicing with them, and another family you're mourning with them. Right.
And so it's an honor, but it can also, bring an emotional toll, but that was definitely a moment that it's like, it's best not to say things sometimes, it's like, well, at least this, or, hey, we got to rejoice because they're in heaven. It's like, but there's a reality to their grief. Like, give people permission to grieve. That's healthy, to grieve. But I remember coming home after that, and I just emotionally felt exhausted, and then I have my own grief, with it as well, that I don't want to shove down, and so I remember just like kind of laying on the couch and just like, like I can't move right now. I don't feel like doing anything. And the kids are like, hey, let's play. And I'm like, what's wrong with me? How come I can't just get down on the floor and play with the kids right now? And then the Lord gently started speaking to me like, that would be odd if you could just jump right into, you know what I mean? Right. You're just happy now, it's just like that you would have to be a psychopath, to just, boom, I'm happy now, let's play. And so he was really kind of giving me permission to, to have my own mourning process, and then to invite the kids into that. Like, mommy's sad right now, and, without putting a burden on them or you're going to make mommy okay. But it's like, mommy's really sad, and kind of talk to them about grief. And then they get to learn and grow from that too. Yeah. But I think that's one of the amazing things, and one of the challenges is like, when you have a large group of people at any given moment, someone has got their most amazing testimony. They've gotten their answered prayer that they've been long time praying. A prodigal's come home, their finances are finally, coming together, or they just got healed. And then you've got someone mourning their child, or their marriage is ending, or, whatever else could be happening,
Right.
or someone's super upset or whatever. So it's like the gamut of emotions at any one given time is happening all at the same time.
Right.
And so it's just like, and really it's just like, God give us grace
And
for
he
those
does.
moments.
Yeah, and he really does, and those are hard moments. I remember I used to really not enjoy going to the hospitals. I think just like bad memories from going to hospitals as a kid and stuff, with people dying and stuff.
Yeah.
And so that used to be one of the things that I least enjoyed.
Yeah.
Like the hardest part of the job was going to hospitals to pray for people, to see people and when they're hurt, they're not doing well, or struggling with a disease or something. And I remember it was several years ago, but one day I was on the way to a hospital, and I was just praying, like, Lord, help me, give me, strength, give me grace to pray for this person. And I remember hearing the voice of the Lord say, "You're going to minister to me today, and like you're going to bless me today."
Yeah.
And so it's that scripture that says, when you did it, when you visited someone in the hospital, you did it to me.
Yeah.
And so that really helped to heal some of those places of just being afraid to go to the hospital, but like really recognizing the honor. Like, it's an honor to go and minister to Jesus.
Yeah.
And I get to go and minister to the Lord by ministering to his people.
Yeah.
And so it really kind of helped me a lot. Now I don't have that near as much. I wouldn't say I enjoy going to hospitals, but I do enjoy it in a certain way, and I always feel good that I went and was able to bless people.
Yeah. We've had some powerful moments in hospitals.
Yeah.
Of just like, singing and praying, and like God's presence just shows up, and we've had some really amazing moments in hospitals. And then for me, hospitals are a good association because I've had so many babies that I associate hospitals with. Like, I'm going home with the baby. But those are it's an honor to go do those things, but it can be challenging. Yeah.
All right. What's it like to lead a church in today's social climate? That's a fun one.
Yeah. I mean, like, so this is 2025. So 2020, like, even though it was 5 years ago, man, it feels like not that long ago. And I think most pastors, when you talk to them, or pastors, like friends that are pastors, when I talk to them about 2020, we all kind of get a little shiver up our spine.
PTSD.
A little PTSD, yeah. Because it was hard. We're all trying to navigate, like, okay, this crazy disease is happening, for a lot of us. I mean, like, we took towels and polished our cereal boxes before putting them away for at least a couple weeks, you know what I mean? Like, we don't know how serious this is, and the epidemic, and, this whole thing. So we're navigating that. Yeah. And then, different stories you hear of people being in the hospital or whatever. And then there's the pressure, shut down your church, or then, at one time now open your church, and everybody's got differing opinions all across the board, and masks and not masks. And
we saw a lot of judgment against churches, like, how dare they shut their doors? And I remember just encouraging people, like, because we were able to open up really quickly, right? But we're also in Arizona, and we were also a smaller church. Yeah. And so I remember just encouraging people, or talking to people about, when I saw judgment against these big churches, like, hey, they're in a different state, in a different, and they've got a whole lot more people. Like, let's not come in judgment against them, just because we were able to open up, earlier than them. There was
just a lot of temptation for offense. Yeah. And there still is, honestly. I think that's kind of, when we talk about social climate right now, there's so many opportunities for fear, so many opportunities for offense. And I think that's probably the difficult thing. It's just like, we have to stay rooted and anchored in the Word of God, period. The Word of God is always going to be true in any and every season. And so really going back to, reading the Word and asking Holy Spirit questions, as times change or whatever, and make sure that we stick to what he says. Because if the word says something, it doesn't matter what our opinion is. It's like he's always going to be right. And obviously reading that with Holy Spirit in those things. But yeah, it can be really difficult because that spirit of offense can kick up, and can kick up right in the middle of church, where, you know, people start fighting battles with one another, instead of going after bringing the kingdom of heaven to earth. Hey, let's evangelize, let's get people saved, you know, and remembering that the enemy is the enemy, and not, you know, our brothers and sisters in Christ, certainly, and also not unsaved people who we want to minister to and bring into the kingdom. And yet I get the reality of we also have to navigate standing up for righteous laws, and taking a stand against evil in the world, and taking a stand against, you know, all the different crazy things that are happening. It's a lot for people to navigate, you know, in general.
And I remember someone saying the enemy doesn't care what side you're on as long as you're offended and fighting people.
Right.
And so if the attack with COVID, I'm not saying it is, but if the attack with COVID was to shut down churches, so, and then people are offended at churches for being closed too long, and then they're coming against churches, which is the same spirit of shutting down churches or damaging churches, instead of coming in the opposite spirit. Well, if the attack against churches is to shut down churches, how do we come in the opposite spirit and like support the church, build up the church? If there's churches that are lacking courage, how do we like love them?
How do we encourage?
How do we help bring
put courage
into pastors instead of joining that battle that we're against of like, okay, this is taking down churches, and now I'm so offended, I'm joining that fight against churches. So we want to come in the opposite spirit.
Well, and there's been so many churches that have shut their doors or had church splits, pastors that have left the ministry since 2020. Like the statistical thing out there is that there's actually a shortage of pastors right now.
Wow.
And so that's a problem. Like we need shepherds, we need pastors that are willing to do this, and obviously do this in a way that's pleasing to God. We totally get there is such a thing as spiritual abuse. At some point in the future, we'll be doing a podcast on spiritual abuse and things.
I want to do a podcast, 10 Signs That You're in a Cult.
I mean, those things do exist. And so we're not talking about that when we're talking about, you know, people coming against churches and stuff. There are good Bible-believing churches that have shut down, or pastors that are like, man, this is so hard, I'm out. But all that to say, yes, it's an interesting climate on many levels. I mean, like, it's also an exciting time. Because, man, Jesus is coming back. You know, I don't know the date. I'm not prophesying a date. The second you pick a date, you're wrong, because the Bible says nobody knows the day or the time. So,
but people always keep picking dates. I never understood that one.
But it certainly feels like we're headed that way. Jesus is coming back. And it's amazing to see, you know, it's like we see a lot of Gen Z coming back to the Lord right now, just of their own accord. And, you know, with what happened with Charlie Kirk, that has motivated people, whether you agree or disagree. You know, there's so many people that are coming back to the Lord as a result of...
We've seen that across the nation.
Of what happened to him, and that it becomes real. Church persecution becomes real in our minds. In that way, but it's an exciting time to be alive. And I always try to point people back to, like, it's not a surprise to God that you were born in this time. Like, you were born for such a time as this. And so to not be intimidated or think that somehow the enemy has the upper hand, he doesn't.
Yeah, I agree with you. It is an exciting time. I think part of answering this question is just figuring out who you are as a church, and staying out of judgment of yourself or other churches, and like, well, they should be doing this, and they should be doing this more, and then that judgment comes back on you to make sure you're doing, you know, whatever you think you should be doing, but rather constantly asking the Lord, like, God, what's our lane? And how do we love people best? And what's our strength? And always speaking the truth in love. It helps me to know God's wired everybody to receive his truth, whether they resist it or not.
Yeah.
And so we do have to speak the truth in love. We don't beat people with the truth. But it's his loving kindness that draws us to repentance.
Yeah.
And so what's our lane, and how do we speak the truth in love? And, what's our torch to pick up in our church? And not judge other churches. We're all different parts of the body. So we just have to figure out what we're supposed to do as the hand or the knee or the elbow.
Yeah. Yeah. And really resist fear of man, and like holding tension between, I don't want to operate in fear of man, and yet I also want to learn and grow. And so being very selective about who gets to speak into my life, who gets to challenge me in some of these areas, because I do need to grow, and I want Holy Spirit to grow me.
Yeah.
I don't want to miss something, but also, it's like the internet warriors or the trolls or whatever online, they are not, they don't know me, they can't smell my breath. That's not going to be a huge influence on me. Right. But I am going to lean into my mentors and people that can smell my breath and that, love me and are for me. And hey, challenge me on some things, and let's talk about, what's going on in the world right now, because I do want to learn and grow.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, let's see what the next question is here. Okay, we're down to the last couple. Okay, should you lead vulnerably? Kind of a loaded question. Huh?
Yeah. I personally don't see how you can lead any other way if your goal is transformation in people. If you're leading in a way where you're trying to be perfect or trying to project perfection all the time, then all people learn how to do is either think, oh, well, he's perfect or she's perfect, and so good for them. Or they feel like they've got to put on a mask to match your perfection, which honestly, nobody's perfect. Yeah. So whatever you're projecting in the area of perfection is probably a mask, or you shoving down your own heart or whatever. And it's like that stuff comes up at some point. And so so for us, I know that we have a value of leading from a vulnerable place. It's like I'm a mom, and I'm trying to figure out how to be a good mom in every season of my kids' lives. I can't ever say that I figured it out. Even once I've gone through the teenage phase or the potty training phase or whatever, every kid is different. They have different wiring, and you got your strong-willed ones and your ones that you got to draw their emotions out a little bit more because they hide them. And it's like we're always learning and growing, and so I don't ever want to project I've got it all figured out. You know what I mean? It's like certainly we can grow in wisdom and experience.
Yeah. I think it's one of the biggest compliments we've gotten is like, I've heard this a lot. Like, I've never seen a pastor be that vulnerable and share like really what their process is and what they're struggling with. And I'm sure there's a such thing as oversharing.
Sure. Yeah.
And, I don't know if we've crossed that line or not, but I think we err on the side of like, we have to be vulnerable with our life, and we have to kind of be authentic with our own journey, and that's actually the best way to help people. Yeah. And it kind of goes back to like what is a pastor, and I think a great definition of a pastor is someone who's gone after breakthrough with the Lord in their own life and has gotten breakthroughs, and they're sharing their story. Yeah. Of like, here's things I've struggled with, and here's how God,
I climbed out of it.
Here's how God brought me out. Here's how God healed me.
Yeah.
And I think those are the most powerful things of like, you're giving people a true roadmap and a real story. Yeah. Rather than it can just become, if you're not sharing vulnerably, it can just become philosophy. Yeah. Of like, philosophically, here's
what you should be doing that I don't do,
Right.
Or that I've never struggled with,
Again, which, it doesn't hit the heart of the issue. Yeah. And it doesn't give them an example of like, what it looks like to climb out of a hole you're in, or like how to break through in hearing God, or how to overcome fear, or, all these things that everybody struggles with. It seems like we all have the same struggles. Yeah. But it's just really sharing, kind of what we've been through and how the Lord brought us out.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the big lessons for us that highlighted that, because I remember for a long time being frustrated, you know, you go to church or different churches and it's like everybody's wearing a mask. It's like, how are you doing? Well, bless God, I'm doing great. And how are you? Bless God. You know, it's like everybody's always doing great all the time. And when it's like that, then everybody kind of, you know, unspoken, we feel this pressure that we've got to keep our stuff in. It's like it's not comfortable to share the things, or we shouldn't share. It's wrong to share.
Right.
And but I remember watching people come in and out the doors year after year, and they had the same struggles, and they weren't getting freedom.
Right.
And you know, it was frustrating to me. But I remember one of the pivotal things for us is we went to a marriage intensive. It's like 5-day intensive, and it was called Love After Marriage. And for each small group that you were in at a table, you would help work through each other's issues. And so they shared with us, whoever's leading this table, you have to share the most vulnerably that you possibly can, because it is going to open up vulnerability for the rest of your table.
Vulnerability is contagious.
Yes.
So it allows people to take off the mask and to let their guard down. And I remember that happened in that group. The first couple, that we weren't the leaders of that group, and another couple was, and they shared one of the most vulnerable stories I've ever heard. Like
a testimony, or not a testimony, they shared something that would leave them open to be heavily judged by people if people chose to judge them.
And it broke something in the group. It broke everybody free from shame. Everybody it was a really powerful weekend, but you know, I credit a lot of that to their own vulnerability that they led in that. And I remember thinking like, wow, I'm a coward now if I don't share what I'm going through. Like if they're willing to share that, like that inspired me to be courageous, to really share the real problems.
It gave us permission.
Right. And that's really what we need in churches is like, we need people to come and share their real problems. And it kind of goes back to that come as you are thing. Instead of, so many people fall into the trap of like, I'm going to clean my life up and then I'll come to church.
Right.
And it doesn't work that way.
Or I can't come to church for a season because I got to clean myself up.
Right.
It's like, that is not biblical.
It's the opposite. It's like we come to God and then he cleans us up. And it reminds me of the prodigal son story, where it's when he came back home, he was probably really jacked up.
Yeah.
I mean, he just came out of a lot of huge dysfunction.
Yeah.
And he was needing the Father's love to bring him back into health.
Yeah.
In fact, that's what probably brought him back into health, was coming back to the Father as he was, so broken and messed up.
Yeah.
And then he's received again and loved by the Father and brought back into health.
Yeah.
And so that's a great picture of what the church needs to be. We need to be that Father in the prodigal son story, like welcoming people in as they are and loving them into health with boundaries, of course.
Yes.
With boundaries.
And we're not leaving you there, because a good father also doesn't leave you in that place.
Right.
We're just going to commiserate about how broken and messed up we are.
Right.
That's not the goal. That's not what we mean by leading in vulnerability.
Right. And we're not going to bring someone in that's just coming out of brokenness and make them the children's minister.
Right. Right.
It's like, of course we're going to have wisdom and boundaries, but we do want to have that feeling of like, welcome to the family, come as you are, and we're going to love you and really allow the Holy Spirit to do the work and God to do the work to bring you into healing and health and life and not judge you on the way.
And how could we judge, because we've been there? You know what I mean? It's like, if you're judging, then you've forgotten where you've come from. And we've come out of so much brokenness, and some of the things that I would have used as excuses why we shouldn't pastor, looking back now with God's redemption, they're actually our strengths, because we've had to walk out of brokenness, because we've had to walk out of issues and areas where we went wrong, and God brought us back, and us even having that pathway back actually strengthens us as ministers. And so like, that's just how cool God is. It's like his redemption plan is absolutely amazing. And I think it is important to keep that perspective of the father of the prodigal son, and to not become the elder brother. That's like, I am judging you and how dare you, and because that a lot of times you'll experience Christian people that feel mean or judgmental, or and it's like, we don't want to be the elder brother, we want to be like the father. And that's what brings the transformation. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think for a long time, because of my background and really going my own way for so many years, for a lot of years coming back to God, I felt like the prodigal son.
Yeah.
But then I remember moments where the Lord just started speaking to me. He's like, "You're kind of the older brother right now," and I was like, "Oh man!"
Yeah.
But what's cool in that story is God loved, or the father loved the older brother and ministered to him just as much. Just like he's like, "Hey, everything I have is yours."
Yeah.
Like, he's also ministering to his heart, and so God will meet us.
Speaking of
right where we're
imperfection,
at.
we've got our kids screaming. I don't know if
I don't
it's
know.
coming across
Yeah, I
on
don't
the
know if
audio.
we're both hearing our kids screaming in the
Like
background.
singing,
So typically they're in school, but this week they have off. And so, but yeah, it's part of the joys of being parenting and doing this podcast when life, says you should not do it today, but we're just being faithful anyway.
Yeah.
But so I think that's all of the main questions, but we did have some funny, we kind of used Grok to look at some questions. I think most of these questions we came up with on our own, but there was some funny ones on Grok, and so we're like, we should just kind of throw out some of these and maybe do quick answers just for fun.
Yeah.
So have a little fun here.
So some of the questions I asked Grok, I'm like, what do people want to know, or like what questions do people ask? And so one of them is, do pastors work only on Sundays? I don't know if you want to answer that.
So our whole life it's like nonstop.
Yeah.
And especially considering kind of what we were talking about earlier, that our ministry is our marriage, our ministry is our kids, and that's actually the biggest ministry.
Right.
And we want to pastor out of that place of like, hey, we have our priorities straight. And so it's like it's never ending. It's like, you want to. I remember hearing another pastor say, like, he said I would come home from the church office and realize now I'm going to my real ministry to like minister to my wife and to my kids. And I had to not come and bring baggage, but I had to like come in like, okay, now this is actually more important than everything I did today, lest I put the church ahead of my family. And so, it's really 24/7.
Yeah. Do pastors only work on Sundays? Like that, I just laugh. I laugh at that. And especially, because we planted our church. I mean, it's been like that from the beginning. I mean, like in the beginning, you and I were the janitor, and we were also the accountants, and we were also the intercessory prayer team, and we were the worship team and the pastoral team. And I would cook meals, because we would serve meals after church every time. I think we had like 30 people at the time or whatever. And so I'd bring big, crock pots of soup, and, and then we're meeting with people and, going to the hospital to, pray for somebody, and you know what I mean? It's nonstop.
Yeah.
I think if anything, you've got to set some limits around like, okay, what's a healthy work life here? And really making sure that you have delegating, happening to team members. And then as you grow, there's definitely a business aspect to church. I don't mean to call it a business, but it's like you've got HR, you've got payroll, you got
to have a budget.
Right. You got your cleaning people, so it's like there's that whole administrative stuff. And obviously I'm more of the administrator. We also have a school and like all the administration that comes with that. But then also we're constantly growing and developing leaders and meeting with leaders. Yeah. You're also helping people at their worst moments. It's like they're having a marriage breakdown and it's like crisis time and they need a meeting. Yeah. It's a lot of things. And
and then for us, we're balancing like Monday is our family day. And so we try to shut our phones off. That's our
Sabbath, yeah.
Yeah, we try to shut our phones off so that we can have our priorities straight of like, this is a day where we're just focused on our family. That being said, like if someone's in the hospital, that would be an exception.
Yeah.
Or if someone was in a crisis, like a major crisis, that's like one of our leaders or something.
Yeah.
That would be an exception. But we try to turn off our phones for like the most part on those days.
Yeah, but at any moment, you're basically on call. If even as we grow, it's like you're still on call, like for your closest leaders to you, to be able to go do a hospital visit. And things
what
like
else
that.
we got?
What do pastors do for fun? Is it allowed? Are pastors allowed to have fun? Do we have to be serious all the time? Do we pray all day long, every day,
Yeah, I mean, I think that question kind of like assumes that we're different than everybody else.
Right.
Like, you know, it's like we do the same things for fun that probably everybody else does. And obviously there's a reward, I believe, for honoring your leaders and your pastors. But we also want to be seen as just regular people. And like we're just people navigating life like you are. And I've had to say that to people, like, hey, don't put me on this pedestal. Like,
Yes.
I'm navigating through this like you are. And you know, I want you to I need your input. I need your, you know, thoughts, and I need you to like see me as a person and talk to me as a person. But yeah, I mean, but if to get to know us better, what do we like to? We've been going to the lake this summer a lot.
Yeah, well, like
the
lake. We still play video games sometimes.
Yeah. So
we do like we have a snowboarding game.
SSX Tricky
yes,
from
that
PS2.
we've played since like high school, and like we're constantly trying to beat each other's records.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we played it while we were married, but, you know, way before kids. We played this game a lot, and we'd be real competitive. Like, I would get a high score, and then I'd go to work and come back, and she'd be like, I'd see that she'd beaten my score. And then so she'd go to work, and I'd beat her score, and then it'd be like, hey, did you see the scores? And we kind of have a little competitive thing. And but what was cool is we hadn't played that in, I don't know, probably 20 years.
Yeah.
And we found it when we were on vacation in California. Actually, our son knew about it because I told him, like, we used to play this game, and he found it in a game store and was like, isn't this that game? And so we bought it,
yes.
and hooked up the old PS2 in our room, and we've been going back and forth like we did.
Yep.
And
or we went to that one, it's like a used game store, and they had, what was it, old school Mario Kart, right? Like, was it Super Nintendo?
Mario Kart 64.
Oh, Mario Kart 64. Yeah. They had it hooked up with the old controllers and like this little TV. And we're like, oh, let's do this, you know. And so we're, you know, going back and forth or whatever. And my controls weren't working very well. So I kept controlling it. And I'm you know, I kept like complaining and like, well, mine aren't working and that's why you're winning. And,
nice
you know,
try.
I was, except for what happened. And so the worker like heard us or whatever. And so he took it on himself. He went and got me a new controller and hooked up. He's like, here you go. And then we played like the battle of the century, and like people in the store like came to watch, and our kids were watching.
So it's like a movie.
It
like
was so fun.
We actually drew a crowd.
Yeah.
going after each other.
I won,
so
and that was
by
the best.
1 point. So it was funny because it was like a movie. We drew a crowd, and they were actually watching us compete with each other, and you could feel the competitive tension in the air.
I felt like Fire Blaster.
And it came down to because you have to do 4 races. It came down to the last race, and you won by 1 point.
Yes.
So it was like a dramatic ending to you.
It was amazing. And so, someone got pictures and video and stuff, but that was super fun. And it was also like a throwback to when we were in high school, going back and forth and stuff. So we like to have fun. We just went to a concert the other night. That was super fun. It was Hans Zimmer live. It was like a rock concert, but like he's a movie composer, and so we do stuff like that.
Orchestra and band and stuff. And really, really fun.
It was awesome.
And we like movies. You know, doesn't seem like this hasn't been a lot of great movies that have been made lately.
Yeah.
But what we do like movies, we sometimes have family movie night. And so,
we like to have fun. I think that I can be challenged in the fun area. Just because I'm a mom with 5 kids, you know, it's like, I think that's a common struggle is like, man, how do we fit fun in? It doesn't matter what your job is. But I think sometimes people get a religious view of pastors. It's like, oh, am I allowed to tell a joke? I hate that. You know, when we go to dinner with somebody and they're like trying to be holier than thou, as if that's our attitude. I get where they're coming from, but we like to have fun, you know? Yeah. Yep. Do pastors get nervous preaching?
Yes. I think definitely that never goes away. And I think there's a healthy amount of adrenaline.
Yeah.
And then there, you know, obviously if you have too much, it can inhibit, you know, you being able to do what you want to do, need to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think we both have confidence, like to where, but it's like confidence in the Lord.
Yeah.
It's like if I start to get too nervous, I'll remind myself of like, this is what God's called me to do.
Yeah.
He's been there time and time again, or time out and again, something like that. You know, he always shows up.
Yeah.
Over and over and over, he always shows up. And so,
I don't ever want to be flippant I don't ever want to
Oh,
get to
right.
the point that I'm just like, oh, no big deal, I'm preaching.
And I
you
think
know?
I've actually done that.
Yeah?
To where I've actually, like, because, one of my problems was being terrified to speak. And so then God brought me out of that. And then I felt like there might be one or two times where I was like, man, I don't care what anybody thinks.
Yeah.
And I realized, oh, wait, I should care a little bit.
I think that's like human temptation is the pendulum swing.
Right,
It's like,
yeah.
okay, we're not going to do this, but then we go over here for a minute and then we kind of settle back in where we're supposed to be.
Right. There's a healthy
Yeah.
amount of like, yeah, of course I do care a little bit about what people, mostly
Yeah.
we are trying to please the Lord, but we should.
Well, you're trying to lead people somewhere too.
Right, yeah.
And so if they're not coming, that's not good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think I get near as nervous as I used to. I used to be like just terrified. I would get like when we started the church as just like a Bible study, I would have a pit in my stomach and there's like 6 people coming over and you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
we're just leading a Bible discussion. It's not even a message.
Right.
So I think we've come a long way from that.
Coming out of the performance of all of it, I think has been a big deal of just like, we don't want to feel like we're there to perform or we got to work it up.
Yeah.
But more like we're sharing vulnerably and sharing what God is showing us.
Right.
And inviting people into it.
And I think for me, I always want to preach from conviction. So it's like the things that I'm talking about, I believe in and I am passionate about that. And I think that really helps because it's like, obviously I prepare and I have scriptures and stuff, but like off the cuff, I can share from my heart on things. And I think that's helpful. But I think we all get like that Saturday night moment where it's like, okay, I'm
Every
pretty
Saturday.
much done preparing. But then the enemy wants to get in there with just like, this is the wrong message and nobody's going to receive this. And what are you thinking? And, it's like, I can definitely get some of that, and I'm just like, okay, Lord, is this you? Am I on the right track? And he's always so kind in that way. And then of course, you go to preach the message and it's like, oh man, that was definitely what God was doing, for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like we're infallible, but
Yeah.
yeah. Next question. Have you ever been tempted to call out a congregant's behavior publicly during a sermon and what stopped you? I'm like, what in the world?
That's hilarious.
How?
So
like,
been accused of that.
I guess that happens.
Been accused of that at least a couple times of someone saying you were calling me out because I was
Right.
preaching on a certain topic.
Right.
And
it's Holy Spirit is calling them out. Yeah.
And absolutely would never do that.
Yes.
That I think is an abuse of that platform to, you go to your brother in private. Not to say that there is certain situations, I think they're rare, where you do have to not call out a person publicly necessarily.
Right.
But if someone is, trying to bring destruction to the church.
Right.
And
there's scriptural backing
Right,
for that. It's
yeah.
very, very rare.
But this is, I don't think is speaking to that question. This is more of like, are you going to call people out publicly like that are
For their sin
for their
or-
sin? Yeah, of course
Yeah,
not. You should not do
no.
that. And I know, we know that question's there for a reason. There's churches that have done that in the past. And I've heard the stories even of like people getting called out, like, I know you were out drinking last night and like in front of the whole church. And no, we would never do that.
Yeah.
And we don't, even though we've been accused of it, we don't pick certain topics because we're preaching at a person. I think that
Right.
is an abuse of that platform.
Yeah.
We go to the Holy Spirit and go to the Lord and we're like, Lord, we need to know what you're saying right now. And as a pastor, I think, I don't know if you'd agree with this or not, but for me, I know my job is to pursue the Lord.
Yeah.
And then he's having conversation with me throughout the week. And then I'm speaking usually about the conversations that we're having and what
Right.
he's showing me.
What is he getting after me about?
Right.
Oftentimes.
Right. What
Right.
he's showing me in the moment. And so, no, have never done that. Will never do that.
Yeah, that just it makes me cringe. I'm like, that's why would you do that? And like have a conversation one-on-one with somebody, like Matthew 18, like do it like
Right.
that. Don't beat the sheep, and certainly don't beat all the sheep for one person. Like that's a little bit nutty to me. So no, I have not been tempted to do that. So I didn't need the Lord to stop me in that way. And I think it's also like we have really deep held beliefs about shame. It's like like you're describing, like, I saw you out drinking and you hussies and that kind of stuff. It's like that doesn't produce fruit.
Right.
It's like at all. It's
It
like
produces bad fruit.
right. We partner with shame. Shame
Yeah.
is from the enemy. Like
Right.
shame is demonic.
Yeah.
And so shame is not going to produce good fruit in somebody.
Yeah.
Shame is only going to make someone try to perform. It is never going to bring heart change or obedience.
Right.
And so that is that I just wouldn't do that. And if anything, if I know something's going on with somebody and God's having me talk about something anywhere in the realm, I am purposefully like not making eye contact.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is what God is saying. And I try very hard to not preach at people. Like, I'm just like, God help me, in that way. I don't think it's helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe, do we have time for one more? Do you have one more?
Well, we have a few more, but we could always kind of cut out things that don't, land well or whatever. Yeah. What's the most awkward or cringeworthy moment you've had during a service or church event?
Whew. Awkward
or cringeworthy
moment. Well, it's probably been lots of awkward moments. It's kind of comes with the territory. Even in just doing a podcast like we're doing now, it's like part of the appeal of a podcast is it's not polished. It's just kind of an open conversation, and there's going to be awkward moments even in doing this.
Yeah, and
it's like that's actually good. I think it shows like that you're not everything in your life is not polished, and it's like it's kind of shows your humanness. But yeah, I'm trying to think of a particular, awkward moment. I think God gives you grace in those moments too. Yeah. I've always seen God's grace in those moments to where, if someone's coming, an awkward moment can be, someone's coming to like disturb your service or something. And it's like God gives you grace in those moments on how to deal with it. I've felt like the support of the Lord in those moments. So, but what about you? How would you answer that?
Well, the story that comes to mind is like in the early days, there was somebody that was, they were demonized, and they were at the back of the room. And so we're leading worship.
Oh, yeah. That was an awkward
moment.
And
so we're leading worship. And then out of nowhere, they pick up a Kleenex box and just chucked it at our friend Angela.
Oh, I was thinking of a different time.
Oh, yeah. So it's like chucked it at our friend Angela, who's playing guitar. So she's having to lead and then like dodge an obstacle being thrown at her head, and just like, what is happening right now? And so someone went and addressed the gentleman and started praying for him. But there was like, that was a demonic manifestation.
Yeah.
So that was an awkward one. We've kind of laughed about that one a couple times, like, when you're leading worship and you have to like dodge items being thrown at you. That was definitely an awkward moment. Yeah. Did you think of another story?
Well, I was thinking that you were talking about the other time a guy manifested during our service, like we had a demonic manifestation.
I wouldn't. Sure, there was awkwardness for people, but I loved that moment.
It was a great moment, really. Yeah. But that's another example of God gives you grace for things like that, and so I think that helps just to know that God's never gonna, not be there when you need Him the most. He'll be there, and if something challenging like that does happen, it's like God gave the grace for us to deal with that moment. Someone started
manifesting a demon during the greeting time, and so you almost heard the record scratch, so everyone's like, what is happening?
Started like screaming and yelling in demonic like tongues like, and stuff,
he's mine, that kind of stuff. But I love that stuff. I love deliverance, and so and God was able to deal with it and gave His grace, and the person got free. Yeah. I love that story. I'm like,
we could do a whole podcast
Lord, interrupt us with that. Yeah, I know, right?
Just on that story and what we learned from that. But we remember the Bible study after that was like full.
Everybody came to Bible study. They're like, the devil's real. And I hope God is. It's like that kind of sentiment. Like, what was that and what happened? And
So those can be great moments. I think that's. Maybe if there's any young pastors listening, like the hard moments or the moments that feel shameful can be your greatest moments, and you can use those as great teaching moments, and God can totally redeem those moments. And so, and then probably in some of our worst moments, we've gotten, you kind of figure out who's really with you, and those can be really encouraging moments.
Yeah.
To be like, to get encouragement when you know that you've blown it. You know?
Yeah.
And to be like, wow, like I'm getting love even when I feel like I've failed, you know.
Totally. All right. Next question. Have you ever had to deliver a sermon you didn't fully believe in or felt hypocritical about? That's kind of a surprising question.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I would say no. Like, I wouldn't preach a message that I didn't believe in, for sure.
Yeah.
There have been moments that God has challenged me to preach on something that I feel like I'm still working on.
Yeah.
But I am fully engaged in that process. Like, there was a couple
Right.
moments that he was encouraging us to start teaching on finances, and we're like, we're not all the way there yet. And he's like, yeah, but you will be, you know, as you do this. And we are fully engaging that process. So we're
Right.
not telling people to do stuff that we're not actively going after.
Yeah, I think that's not really our MO at all. It's
Yeah.
like we're really trying to be authentic and share our journey. And definitely, I would agree with you, though. There's been times where I'm like, okay, God, I need breakthrough in this.
Yeah, it feels a little more vulnerable.
And I think you can approach those subjects with that vulnerability of like, this is something the Lord's speaking to me. This is something I'm trying to get breakthrough in. And this is where I'm at. And this is
Yeah.
where I think God's taking me.
Yeah.
And you know, kind of invite people into the journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last question.
Last question. Have you ever had a moment where you wanted to quit being a pastor altogether? What kept you in it?
Oh yeah, every
It's like
week. No.
every week.
No, maybe not every week.
That's when
but,
you get that whisper.
yeah.
Right.
What kept me in it? I mean, definitely that's happened lots of times.
Yeah.
I think there's a our kids are like tearing down the house. We can hear them in the background. Sounds like there's like construction going on downstairs.
Yeah. That is not a jackhammer. That is Isaac's feet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What keeps me in it? I think knowing the calling of my life and kind of going back to like my mission of like, hey, my mission, like I think it's, for me, it's remembering what a pastor is. I think when I want to quit is when I start taking on things as a pastor that's not what God's asked me to do.
Yeah.
And then going back to like what a pastor is, and my definition of a pastor is someone who's pursuing God with all their heart, and they're sharing their journey with people. And I love doing that.
Yeah.
I love doing that, and that's fun for me. And so maybe it's more on those wanting to quit moments is really kind of going back to what does this really look like? And I'm probably doing things, when I feel like that, I'm probably doing things that God's not asked me to do.
Yeah. Or not processing the way he would want me to process things. I think that really so much of our journey in pastoring is God just really building something on the inside of us. You know, it's like, you know, I dealt with a lot of rejection issues, abandonment issues, and things coming into this. And like, man, if you want to kill that rejection button, or you just want to give up on life, become a pastor, because there's opportunities to feel rejected all the time. And so really it's like in that process of pastoring people, God has been knocking those things down, knocking down strongholds, bringing healing in places that you didn't even know you needed healing in.
Yeah.
And so in that way, it has been a very sanctifying process, similar to marriage. You know, it's like people don't realize marriage is very sanctifying, because it's like, especially when you're doing it God's way, I can't just run away. Right. So we have to face head on, is this something that I need to go get healed or deal with, or is this something that you do? Or I'm going to learn how to patiently wait in a season, or to pray for the other person. You know, it builds character. Those are the things that bring that sanctification. And it's beautiful for that. But I would say pastoring is also that way. It's like you're either going to grow as a person, grow in character, grow in depth of healing, and get more and more Jesus inside of you, or you will crumble. Yeah. And that's kind of the beauty and the gift in it, is that you kind of have to learn and grow, because pastoring brings so much betrayal. I mean, like that is definitely a thing. There's a lot of betrayal. There's a lot of people that, you know, will say one thing and then they do something else, or they're talking behind your back, or, you know, that just comes with the territory, unfortunately. And you also have to stay in that position of loving people and loving people that are
Right.
coming against
Staying
you.
free
And,
of bitterness,
you know,
forgiving often,
yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah,
And not getting jaded towards people when that stuff happens, that I'm still going to
Right.
love the new people, and I'm not going to have
Right.
my guard up in a way that's not
Yeah.
what Jesus is telling me to do. So those are some of the challenges in it. And I think those have probably been some of the moments where it's tempting to be like, man, this is hard. I think more so when those things are affecting our kids.
yeah,
That it's like there's something
That's
going
hard.
on at the church, and it's getting back to people's kids, and then the kids are talking to our kids, and I think that stuff has been difficult. There's definitely been some sacrifices that we've made over the years of like not taking a paycheck for long lengths of time, you know, and having to hustle and make money different ways, and you know, and live on a tight budget at times. I don't think that that's God's plan. I don't think that's where it's going to be forever. But those things have been hard moments. You know, times when the church finances were like, oh gosh, God, you've got to show up, or else we're done here. You know, but yet
Right.
there's also gifts in those moments because God just shows up
Yeah.
over and over.
He's shown up for us time
Yeah.
and time and time again.
And it just confirms over and
Yeah.
over and over that we are doing the right thing, we are in the right place, and that He's got us. And He's got the church. It's His church. You know, I try to hold everything with open hands. It's like at any moment, God, if you're calling me to something else, I don't want to stay out of ego, and I certainly don't want to do
Right.
anything that you're not giving us grace for.
Yeah.
But that being said, that kind of brings us back to the story that we were talking about earlier with the confirmation. Like there was a moment that we had faced this huge betrayal moment. A large group of people left the church in a way that wasn't great, and it was very surprising in some ways. Now looking back, maybe not so much, but in that moment, the church finances were really struggling, and we were just in that place of like, God, we're putting the church on the altar. Like, if this is not you, we don't want to do this, you
Right.
know, so show us, like, what do you want us to do? Is it just an accident? Did we just end up here, you know? And it was in that moment that I had opened up my prayer journal that someone had given me probably like 10 years at least prior to that. And the name of our church is Awaken Life Church. And we had really felt like that was the name. And so I'm looking in this prayer journal, and in the inscription, when the person had given me the journal, it said, Joy, God has called you to awaken life in His church. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's not an accident. Like, I'm not just pastoring because I decided to, you know, it's like God even called out the name of the church 10 years ahead of time. And then I go and I turn a couple more pages, and 2 little pieces of paper fall out. And I had forgotten all about this, but it was a prophetic word that someone had given to you, a different person.
Yeah.
And on that piece of paper, it said, God has called you to awaken life in His people.
Yeah.
And I never even equated that those two things were saying awaken,
Right.
you know, or awaken life.
Yeah.
And that was the confirmation.
And
God's
we
like,
had already named the church that because we felt like that's what God was saying. You found that after,
after,
so
yeah.
it was confirmation. And
I mean, really, that was like, I think that was 3 years in
wow.
when we had that huge, you know, upset
Yeah.
in our team and all that kind of
Right.
thing. And God was reconfirming,
Yeah.
I know the end from the beginning.
Wow.
And it wasn't an accident that we end up as pastors.
Yeah.
And so we just hang on to that word. And there's still times that I'm like, God, if you're changing our assignment, let us know.
Yeah.
And so up to this moment, He's like, I have not changed my mind. So
Yeah.
I'm like, all right.
Well, that's a great place, I think, to land the plane for today. And I enjoyed this podcast. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. There's
Yeah,
some
it was
funny
so fun.
questions that
Yeah,
people
yeah.
have, but yeah.
Yeah, and we could probably go on for another couple hours and just
Yeah.
with a lot of stories. Maybe we'll do part 2 someday.
Yeah.
But
Or let us know if this is interesting to you.
yeah,
You
or
know?
get
Or if you have
comment
questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Comment questions if you have other questions that you want to know about our life or about pastoring in general. So, and thanks for watching today, and hope you enjoyed this. Hope that it blessed you. You got something from it. And share this podcast with someone you think that might be blessed with it. It might be refreshing to see pastors who not stuffy.
Hopefully not anyway. Yeah.
But yeah, share this and, like, subscribe, do all the things. We're excited for what God is doing with this podcast and hope that you're blessed by it today.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Pastor Daniel.